Okay, I think we're going.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth installment of the Truckers News Celebrity Series. My name is Randy Grider, and I'll be your host tonight. I am the editor of Truckers News, and it is with great pleasure to introduce our guest tonight for our Celebrity Series, Sean Casey. Sean is a professional tornado chaser and IMAX filmmaker who was a star of the Discovery Channel series Storm Chasers and creator of the IMAX film Tornado Alley. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and thank our great sponsor, Chevron Dello, for making this series possible. And a reminder to our audience, thank you for participating with us tonight, and make sure you click the play button on the right side of the Celebrity Series page to participate in the live chat. When you ask questions, give us your first name and city so that we can give you a shout out. Sean, welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Now, kind of give us just a little background. You're located on the West Coast, and I think you said in Sonoma. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Los Angeles, and we just moved up to the Bay Area, kind of North Bay Area, January 12th. So got out of LA and now kind of living a more rural life.
Okay. Now, I've read somewhere that I think your dad was into the IMAX filmmaking before you. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I,
so then you got into IMAX filmmaking, and can you give us a little
little history.
resume of what you'd done before you got into
Yeah,
the latest?
yeah. My father, he was an IMAX filmmaker, and so, at an early age, he would take the entire family. On location if he was going to be gone for a while. So, even at an early age, 11, 12, I was kind of hanging out in really cool places, kind of seeing, what the operation was in making these IMAX films. Even though I was 11 or 12, I still had a job. It was usually to guard the cases that the film equipment would come in.
Right.
And then as I got older, I mean, that kind of imprinted upon me is that's what you do in life. You take this large IMAX camera, you go to interesting places and film cool stuff. So as I got older, I started doing different jobs. We did an IMAX film called Ring of Fire. Uh, and I had graduated from instead of guarding the cases to carrying the cases. And then when I was about 20, 21, we did an IMAX film on great white sharks, and I was the safety diver and sound man for that shoot. Then we did an IMAX film on Africa, the wildlife there, and at that time I became a cameraman. So I was kind of in charge of filming, the hard to get shots, the kill shots. So they would leave me somewhere for a while with food, and I would film, say, the lions taking down the zebras or the crocodiles, predating on wildebeest. And then we did an IMAX film on Alaska, and then we did a film on animals that migrate, and then we did a film called Forces of Nature. And Forces of Nature covered three subjects: earthquakes, volcanoes, and then tornadoes. And during that production, I just fell completely head over heels in love with chasing the weather. So when that film was done, I wanted to do an IMAX film just on tornadoes. And then, of course, if you're going to spend all that energy and time in the field, why not build a platform, a vehicle that you could film from and really get exceptional footage in a very exceptional format, the IMAX format.
Right. Now, once you got your interest in this was going to be kind of your project. You really want to do tornadoes, and how long of a project till it came to fruition with Tornado Alley? Was this a year project or was
No, no, it took 8 years.
oh wow.
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah. I thought it would, when I started building the first TIV, I thought this whole project would take maybe 4 years tops.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the case. It's difficult on two levels, really, two main levels, with getting that shot of a tornado coming directly at you and impacting you. That's the shot that I wanted. One, it's very hard to get, to that perfect place and have that perfect tornado. One that's not too weak and one that's not too strong, coming directly at you. And then, secondly, it was kind of getting used to that idea. psychologically to get used to the idea of getting hit by a tornado. So for a number of years, we were getting extremely close, and we were going into smaller ones, just to make sure the vehicle was holding up, and everything did well. So then we started bumping up how the strength of the tornadoes as far as what we would encounter.
Now, let me clarify something. This was with your first tornado intercept vehicle.
Hmm.
Did you build the first one
I did. Yeah,
ground up?
that's where I
You
learned
started
how to.
out in a minivan, I
That,
understand, right? When you first kind of got into chasing storms, or
well, when we were first chasing, yeah, we would rent minivans.
that couldn't feel too safe.
No, no, and you're already kind of mentally at a disadvantage when you find yourself in a dangerous situation and you're in a minivan. Um, so yeah, the first vehicle was actually I didn't have any funds to do this film. No one wants to get what they think is a suicide mission any money. So this was all out of pocket. So I bought a used Ford 450. It had 114,000 miles on it. Um, and like I said, I had to learn how to weld and fabricate to build, the first TIV. And of course, the first year it was out, it was ugly. I mean, this vehicle it was a cross between, one of those vehicles in a 1970s sci-fi movie, where they're crossing the desert filled with
Right.
zombies, and like some bad beer commercial. It was that ugly vehicle. We got pulled over 17 times the first year by local
Oh,
law enforcement.
that
It
was
was
very
that
hard to
ugly.
explain what you were doing, I guess.
Yeah, it was the first year the TIV was out, and they had no idea what was going on, and it was curiosity stops. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then when you went to your second vehicle, I guess it was more sophisticated. You built on things that the other one was lacking, and it was truly built probably more from the ground up than even the first one, correct?
Yeah, well, the second one, we took a Dodge 3500, and tore it down to the engine and the chassis, um, and then built back up again. But it had a lot more thought going into the design. The original TIV was a two-wheel drive vehicle, and it had a static shell. So the frame was just the static kind of, as close to a hemisphere as I could get. And if it's a static shell, you don't want winds getting underneath the vehicle.
Right.
So our clearance was about, I would say, 8 inches off the ground. So going down those dirt roads, we were getting stuck, and we were getting, in the ditch a lot. And so the idea was to have a second vehicle that was, four-wheel drive, and actually change its shape so we could have a high clearance going down the road, and then with hydraulics we could lower these panels that would block wind from getting underneath the vehicle.
Now, can you kind of give me just a little bit of? I've seen the vehicle, and I still say it's impressive, but it kind of looks a little bit like a Mad Max vehicle to me with all the steel. Can you kind of give me some specs, weight,
Yeah,
what kind of engine you had in it?
yeah, no, it was a Dodge 3500. It had the newer 6.7 Cummins in it. When we added all the stuff to the vehicle, it weighed in at 15,000 pounds. And a lot of that weight is the weight that we added to the walling around where the people are. It's actually 2 inches thick of 9 different layers of stuff. Um, so that's where most of the weight is. I mean, there's no weight around the engine compartment or those flaps that go down to block the winds. I mean, that's just aluminum. Just aluminum paneling.
Right.
But the real weight is around where the people are, because you don't want that 2x4 or that telephone pole to impact your vehicle and get through.
Now, and I know your goal during filming Tornado Alley was to actually drive into a tornado. So, of what classification of a tornado, F0 through F5, did you feel comfortable that vehicle would stay on the ground?
Well, you got varying degrees of comfort, right? I mean,
Right.
you might see an EF1 or 2, and a normal car you'd probably survive in. When you get into that EF3 category, when you're getting in the 140 mile per hour winds, then of course normal vehicles are being lifted. And our vehicle has withstood up to about 150, 155 mile per hour winds, um, and it did fine. And I think of course we could probably take winds of up to 200 miles an hour. It's just when you reach those wind speeds, you get really nervous about what that tornado is picking up and what's downstream from you. So if you see, the grain silos, like this last year, we were approaching a tornado, and then all of a sudden the three grain silos in front of us just went up in the air, and then all of a sudden that was material that was, the sheeting I'm sure is fine, but I know they have some type of structure, and so when you see that, or you see large parts of trees, being torn out of the ground, you kind of back off because even though we have armor, we have inch-and-a-half thick polycarb windows. You get a tree trunk that's moving at 150 miles per hour. I mean, that would probably go through our stuff.
Right. Now, just back to the vehicle real quickly. What kind of creature comforts did you build into it? You guys who obviously are going to spend hours, maybe even days at some points, right?
I kind of overlooked that whole part. We've got cup holders now. We have rolls of duct tape that you use as cup holders. Um,
I guess that was needed going over these bumpy areas. I guess you probably got a lot of stuff spilled on you over the years.
well, we don't have AC. We don't have a radio in there. There's not a lot of comforts. We tried to maximize the room that we have with all our gear. So the AC unit for that vehicle was quite large. I mean, it seemed like it was about almost 3 feet long by 10 by 8. So it was just trying to make as much room as possible in there.
And a couple of other little things. What's your maximum speed?
Oh, the tip moves. I mean, that's 6.7 Cummins. We're zipping down the road doing normal speeds, and we weigh 15,000 pounds. Um, so on a closed track, we could probably do 100, 110.
Wow, that's pretty expensive. And
Yeah.
I guess, did you have any problems getting this thing since you built it yourself? Did you have a problem getting it registered for highway use or tagged out, or was that?
um, Well, Department of Transportation, they're pretty liberal as far as what goes down our highways. So of course the vehicle had to be less than 102 inches wide. The rear, the headlights have to be a certain height. The taillights, the mission is pretty much stock. It's stock emission. Um, but I did make the mistake of going into the Department of Motor Vehicles in California, because they were wondering why I hadn't registered the vehicle. I'd been working on this vehicle, but I hadn't registered it, and so I brought in a picture of what I'd built, and that was the big mistake. And the clerk there said, "There's no way I'm going to register this vehicle. You're going to have to take it to the California Highway Patrol." And so I made an appointment, went there. I was a bit nervous. And then two officers come out, and they look at the paperwork, and then they jump in the TIV, and they were gone for about 20 minutes.
Mm,
And they came back and they gave me I guess it's a special purpose built vehicle classification.
right. So that's so now you're street legal and
Hmm.
always ready to go. Now, do you encounter a lot of truck drivers when you're out there, or shutting down in truck stops sometimes?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. In fact, one year we decided we were going to run with a CB,
Hmm.
just to you spend so many hours on the road, like truckers do. You're trying to find ways to entertain yourself. When we're averaging about 400 or 500 miles a day out there, and some days you're driving 800 900 miles in a day. So we brought a CB. Um, and that's how we actually got the nickname for our vehicle that actually travels with us. We have a second vehicle that's kind of it's been altered. It was a pickup truck that got altered, another Dodge 2500, and one of the truckers said it looked like a doghouse, and so that became the nickname for our secondary vehicle, Doghouse.
Oh wow. Um, Now, one of our viewers tonight, and that's Bill from Tulsa, wants to know: do you ever get scared chasing storms? Has there been some intense moments that you were like, "This is pretty scary"?
Oh yeah, man. I don't like the lightning part of it all. When you're getting those cloud to ground lightning strikes and they're so close, you're actually feeling that kind of concussion wave coming off of them. I mean, I hate lightning. I hate that. And then of course, yeah, when that tornado's coming at you, it's not like you get used to, you know, even though it's a rush and it's a thrill. I mean, I'm having second thoughts. You're definitely having second thoughts about what you're doing. But then again, you got four guys in an armored vehicle, and you do things you normally wouldn't do. Um, but yeah, I've got two young kids, and of course, that's always in the back of my mind out there. Really being aware of the situation, make sure whatever we mess with, you know, uh, doesn't mess with us.